The Town surrendered a 2-goal lead for the second time this season as Coventry City won the playoff final repeat 3-2 at the CBS Arena on Saturday afternoon. Alongside me to reflect on a disappointing afternoon is the Lutonian journalist James Cunliffe. Jimbo, we put the clocks back for an hour overnight. If only it could have gone back 17 months.
Yeah, it said it was back to the bad old days, wasn't it?
It was indeed. Yep, we'll go through it all, look at where we go from here right after this intro.
For me, it's the people and the spirit of the people as well.
I love this town. I love this town. I love this town. You know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got this massive soul.
We're Luton people, and that's what we care about.
Hello everyone, welcome along to another episode of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast, the longest running Luton Town podcast, which is shortlisted this season for the Best Football League podcast in the Football Content Awards. We are sponsored by Solid this season, providing opportunities, provisions and assistance so our academy can fulfil their potential. As I mentioned before the intro, we are looking back at, well, I suppose we have to call it a disastrous afternoon at the CBS Arena, losing 3-2 to Coventry from 2-0 up. Jimbo, we're doing this, as always, on the Sunday night, and I don't think either of us quite got over that yet.
Last place I want to be is here. No disrespect.
Usually we'll go through some positives as well as the negatives on these podcasts. Well, I don't know if we'll find any positives. There's certainly plenty of negatives. Let's go through the game, though. Jimbo, Town were unchanged. There in itself, as we're talking in hindsight, became the first problem. We'll discuss that shortly. But we were always going to be unchanged. There was no one back. And there was no reason really to change it from the other day necessarily.
I think there is now.
Although absolutely there is now.
There is now. Please let that be an experiment which you realise cannot work. I mean, I asked Rob in the build-up to the game, in the pre-match, whether his team can do 90 minutes of high press, and he said, yeah, he doesn't see that as a problem, but it is now.
And I'm glad you did ask that, because we flagged it in the preview. This schedule is nonsense. You know, Jurgen Klopp, as I said, keeps getting ridiculed for the Wednesday night, Saturday lunchtime, complaining that he did when he was manager of Liverpool. We've got another 2 of these to come before November's out. So we're going to have to get used to this, because they're not going to stop the schedule suddenly just because Luton are playing to a higher intensity than some others. We're going to have to manage a 3-game week a hell of a lot better than we do. We'll come on to all of that. Let's cover the game first, because, you know, the game is important. And of course, not everyone could go to it. And with it being on Sky, not everyone could watch it. So unchanged side. Town started really, really slowly, as to be said. Coventry could have been 2 up before we blinked, really. Kaminsky made a good save I'd have expected him to make from the right back, pushed it around the post. He's got a habit when we're on television of playing to the cameras, hasn't he, Kaminsky? But I'm mighty glad that he did. But then when Luton finally played some football, that literally the first passage of football that Luton played in the entire game, we got the ball forward down the left-hand side. Kraus manages to go past his man. Chong makes a lovely run on the other side of the Japanese guy, Sakamoto, I think his name was. He's always getting fouled. It was just a matter of whether he was getting fouled inside the box or outside the box. And thankfully, the Japanese fella waited until he was inside the box to foul him. A miracle happened, because the worst referee on the planet actually got a decision right. He couldn't get it wrong. It was so obvious. And all of a sudden, from nowhere, the Town have got a penalty. Carlton Morris steps up. They may as well have just gone back to the halfway line and kicked off, because he don't miss penalties. First time I can ever recall a goalkeeper going the same way, though, but he still put it in the corner.
You don't save those. He put it right in the corner.
Well, we're actually that side of the goal in the away end, and it's outside the goal when it leaves his foot. If he doesn't curl it, it's missed. But obviously, I mean, he knows exactly what he's doing. He's curled it in, like you're saying, to the side netting. But for that brief second when it left his foot, I was like, oh no, especially with the goalkeeper diving that way as well. But Carlton don't miss.
No, he doesn't, and it was welcome relief as well because, as I'm sure we'll reference many times, Coventry were on top, and they stayed on top. So a goal against the run of play is sort of it's unusual these days, isn't it? For Luton, it's usually quite the opposite. So I was glad he got that clear-cut penalty, no qualms about it, great finish, and then gives a bit of a platform. And you're thinking at that stage, or maybe after the week you've had, and two very good performances, maybe this corner that's been turned, or we thought had been turned, sorry, my fault, was going to carry on, but it looks like Luton didn't really turn the corner. They just had a good peek around it.
Yeah, indeed. This game was playing out the mirror opposite of Wednesday night, where we had Sunderland pinned in and they couldn't get out for the rest of the first half, or certainly for the next 20 minutes at least. And the whole of the second half, it was roles reversed. Coventry had us pinned in and we couldn't really get out. Our sort of avenues of getting out weren't really open to us. To be fair, though, the front two were a handful. There were a couple of times they nearly got themselves in by flicking the ball onto each other, only for last-ditch challenges to kind of get the ball back. But going the other way, it felt like it was only a matter of time before Coventry would score. There was this insane period of play where Tom Holmes blocked 2 shots and Chong came away with on a marauding run before he got wiped out. Again, that was a really good first half performance from Chong, actually. Kaminsky made another save from the near post after Hashioka lost a battle with Haji Wright, who I have to say is the best forward I've seen up against us this season. He was in a league of his own. He really was. I mean, our two were a handful. Their two were equally as much of a handful. Some of our downfall was down to an inability to challenge, which was taken away from us by 2 absolutely horrendous refereeing decisions. Alfie Doughty takes a quick free kick. Now, we're in a world where stopping a free kick from being taken is a yellow card, but I've never yet seen a free kick being taken quickly being a yellow card, particularly as no one was anywhere near. Everyone had retreated to their positions. It wasn't like that one that Manchester City were moaning about the other week when Kyle Walker was pulled out of position by the ref. That wasn't the case. Alfie took a perfectly good free kick and comes out with a yellow card.
It's infuriating at the time, and it still is, to the point that I couldn't even bring myself to go and look at the rules like I normally do to find out, has he fallen foul of some new infraction that I'm not aware of? And and unless there is, because like I say, I was too pissed off. That's ridiculous. What the hell is that?
Well, I'd love
and also, he's out for the West Brom game now because of he tried to take a progressive free kick, not tried to stop game, not tried to hold it up. No gamesmanship. It was ridiculous.
Not taking it from the wrong place, because when the free kick did take place, he took it from exactly the same place. So I would love to know what that yellow card is, other than the fact that the idiot in orange has got a reputation for being one of the worst referees. I mean, we got rid of this bloke when he put that ridiculous social media post up about disabled people, going back 5-6 years. And we're stupid enough to have let him back into referee in this country. Surely we're not that desperate for referees. Anyway, from the resulting free kick that did actually happen, Carlton Morris headed the ball onto the defender and out for a corner. It's the most obvious corner, so obvious that the paraglider who arrived in the second half, who hadn't even jumped off from where he jumped, could see that it was a corner. Goal kick's given. I can see from behind the goal that it's a corner. It's the most obvious corner. The linesman, for once in his life, is in position to see it. It clearly goes horizontal and then off of the defender and out behind for a corner. Morris, quite rightly, I have actually watched some of this game back on Sky because I wanted to make sure that what I was going to say.
Bloody hell, glutton for punishment.
I am, but I wanted to make sure that some of what I'm going to say in the second half of this podcast rings true and wasn't just an emotional reaction. But you can actually see on Sky, I'm pretty sure that that Morris calls the linesman a shithouse, which is the very least of what I was calling him, let me tell you.
Yeah.
But he makes
cheered me up for some reason.
He makes his way into the book. So that's his physicality gone from the afternoon, because one more problem with a referee who's just shown by booking Alfie that you don't even need to break the rules to get another yellow card. All of a sudden, 2 really key players are on bookings and can't really go on from there. Later in the first half, Mark McGuinness gets a yellow card. And then, we get to that silly situation in the corner where Elijah's just standing still and Sakamoto, and I said this to a person who sat next to me when this passage of play was going. They were stood there, Sakamoto was going nowhere, Elijah was standing over him, and I said to Les, the guy next to me, I said, he is going to fall over in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then he went down and the referee fell for it. Elijah just stood still, didn't do anything. Because the guy had nowhere to go, he knew exactly what he was going to get out of this referee. And if you're getting fouls given against you for that, how can you really put a tackle in when you're on a yellow card? You can't, because you're just going to get another one and going to leave yourself in a whole heap of problems. Did we lose the game because of the referee? Absolutely not. But he certainly didn't help the equation.
Yeah, I mean, I think it added into the mix of why no bloody challenges seem to be going in, but that was symptomatic of all of the teams. So you can't, not all of them were booked. So
near enough all of them were.
Just ridiculous officiating. The Doughty one's bad enough, and
I mean, they flagged it up on Sky, didn't they? The commentator actually made the sarcastic comment that we've had 5 fouls in this game and 4 yellow cards. Okay, 3 of the yellow cards at that point weren't for fouls; they were for gobbing off and well, whatever Alfie was booked for. I don't even know what they call it. I mean, on Flash scores it's called unsportsmanlike conduct, but it certainly wasn't that.
Well, when you just start dishing them out that early, I mean, I tweeted about this referee. He's desperate to send someone off. Desperate. You give out yellow cards that early for something stupid, and there's only one way it's going. And it wasn't a particularly dirty game, really. It's just ridiculous. I don't know whether the referee instruction is to clamp down on any dissent, but you must be allowed to say that something's wrong or you disagree.
As captain as well.
Yeah,
Morris is captain.
I mean, if he's called him a shithouse, then that might be it. He might be a bit sensitive, but
I mean, my lip reading isn't, it's not my expertise, but I might have called a linesman or two that myself in the past, and I kind of see where it's coming from. I mean, look, yes, that's wrong, but ultimately the decision's wrong, and the linesman's got away with it. And Morris is in the book. We rode a storm for 20 minutes, and it was a storm. I don't know how we didn't concede in that 20 minutes. Actually, credit where it's due, we defended really, really well in that 20 minutes, to be fair. We threw, I've repeatedly said on this podcast that I want to see players dying for the cause, where they threw themselves in front of a number of shots there, and credit to them for that. And then, I mean, if the first goal was against the run of play, I don't even know how to describe the second one being against the run of play. It was even more so the case. But a long ball goes up to Morris, who brings it down absolutely brilliantly on the touchline. And I think most people were expecting him to play Chong in down the line, very much in the way that we did for the penalty. But he doesn't. He sees Tom Krause with half of their half to himself, and Krause makes a lovely run just to appear in the gap that Morris can play the ball through, and Morris finds him in his stride. Very, very rare that a Luton player is found in his stride these days, but he found him in his stride. And then the most X-rated pass I think I've seen in a long time. I mean, it was so bad Sky must have put an Ofcom warning out, because it was on before the watershed. That's how filthy it was. Lovely ball to Elijah, who makes a brilliant run. Brilliant finish. We said in the lead up to the game that now that he's got a goal, we're going to watch him fly, and that's very much the case. A lovely finish, and out of nowhere, the Town are 2-0 up.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. In terms of the pass, it's unbelievable. Like I said, I can't improve on that. But the finish is down to the ball. The ball is so inch perfect, and we've said this about Elijah before. When you have to think about it, that's it. Instinct kicks in, and the ball's so perfect, he only has to dink it over the keeper. I mean, he just about manages it, but it doesn't matter. He's only just started scoring, so it's okay. And at that point, this might be the reverse of Wednesday night against Sunderland, and we might get, the karma might come back around, and we might get something here. And yeah, how wrong we were.
Yeah, unfortunately, that was as good as it got on the afternoon. We got through to half-time, 2-0 up. That was good. But, this is the side who were 3-0 down to Man United with 20 minutes to go last season and got it back to force extra time. If anyone thought at 2-0 the game was done and dusted, you needed to think again anyway. By the same token, if anyone thought Coventry were as bad as their league position, you also needed to think again because they're a good side. But the second half, there's a lot to learn from that. It has to be said. Let's go through the 3 goals first before we discuss that. So
Do we have to?
we do. So the first one on the hour mark, very disappointing, has to be said. Set piece comes over. I'm almost certain he has to take the corner the opposite side because Kaminski's pushed the first corner over much nearer the far post than the near post, and that would take the in-swinger out of the equation. But even so, you've got to defend it better. Sims loses the man. Obviously, Elijah and Morris mark zonally at the near post, don't they, when we defend corners? He's got right in between the two of them. Ordinarily, you wouldn't be too critical of it, other than the fact that they did the exact same set piece in the first half, but Sims's header wasn't good enough and flashed wide of the post. To allow them to do it a second time, that is very disappointing. And this time he was spot on with his header. Ellis Sims, Kaminski, no chance. You looked up at the clock, you saw 60 minutes, and you're like, oh, shit.
The simple fact is the minute that goal went in, every single hatter knew what was coming. Everyone. We could see it a mile off, and apparently no one on the bench did.
Nope. No, that's true. The reaction to that goal was to take Carlton Morris off and bring Jacob Brown on. I can only assume is what I referenced earlier, that Morris was on a yellow card and couldn't be physical or hold the ball up through fear of being sent off, and that was the last thing that Rob Edwards wanted to happen. The second sub...
Well, Brown was getting ready to come on as the goal was scored, so he was ready. For me, I think you just got to go, well, that changes the plan now.
Yeah.
And I was quite happy with the team to start with, and that at the time. And then in hindsight, it's only hindsight. Everyone's a genius in hindsight. And I just went, that was wrong. And so that can't happen again. You need to freshen it up. Nakamba's on the bench. Why is it? We talked about it in the build-up. I asked Rob in the build-up to the previous game, how many games can he play? He said not 3 games in a week, but he didn't play the other 2. We played a bit of the Wednesday.
Bit of the Saturday game, didn't play at all on Wednesday.
That's right, yeah, sorry. But not this one. So, yeah, okay, he didn't start. But when it was clear that they were on top, even though you were 2-0 up, he has to come out from the half-time break. He has to be on the pitch. At least, maybe Pelly.
Yeah, can we pause with the substitutions for a minute, because I really want to cover that, because that is a huge part of the game. 2-2, 75-ish minutes, I'd like to say, 75. This is a bad goal to concede. It's a bad goal to concede. We haven't headed out the corner or free kick, whatever it was, particularly well. Alfie's headed it straight to the edge of the box, where Ben Sheaf, who I can see why a lot of people were on about us signing him in the summer, he looks just the kind of holding midfielder that works really, really well in this league. The first 2 times it's come out to him, he's shot. So in a way, I can kind of understand Jordan Clark going towards him. However, Tom Krause has gone and closed that option down. It's a horrendous defensive read from Jordan Clark. And unfortunately, this is now 4 away games on the trot that horrendous defensive reads from Jordan Clark have ended up in the back of our net. And add to the one that Sunderland scored their winner the other day, we get into an area where we need to get him as far away from our goal as possible, because it is not helping. Krause has gone...
Well, it's described the goal, but I've come to my own conclusions about Clark in this matter. So
we'll come to that in a moment as well. Then ball's come out to Sheaf. Krause has gone and closed him down. He's made sure that he can't shoot. Unfortunately, Clark has also gone and done that. He's left Victor Torp all to himself, and he's found the top corner in much the same way that Oxford's fella found the top corner when Clark once again left too much space in the home game where we were 2-0 up and surrendered that lead. That's 2-2. You look at the clock, you know there's 15 minutes left, you know we're not holding out. You kind of hope we do hold out. Rob does everything he can, I think, to an extent, to try and get us to hold out. We changed tactics. We brought on 2 subs. If you think back to the Bournemouth game where this happened, where we were 3-0 up, I mean, this was only a mini miracle. We've had bigger miracles than this that have gone against us. At 3-3, Ross Barkley had an absolute sitter that he misses, and then they go up the other end to score 4-3. I don't think Corley Woodrow's chance was a sitter per se because it didn't come down. But if we can score that, we probably win the game 3-2. On fine margins do these things turn. Tom Holmes has been booked. He is absolutely cream crackered. He tugs at Haji Wright's shirt. Should he do it? No. Is it mental fatigue? You better believe it's mental fatigue. He gets sent off. And you can tell that the boys are tired at this point, whether you want to use it as an excuse or whether you don't want to use it as an excuse. You can tell the boys are tired because Holmes' first reaction when he's getting sent off is to look up at the scoreboard. And the only thing that's on that scoreboard all day is the clock. And I can only assume he's looked to see, oh, fuck, how long have we got left to hold out? He's found out very quickly at 6 minutes and he shakes his head. He knows full well they're not going to hold out for those 6 minutes because they're knackered. To compound the misery, the free kick that comes from that gets recycled, it gets pushed out of play. You would have thought that the area where the goal is scored would have been where Tom Holmes would have been situated. A header comes in, McGuinness loses the header. I think it was Sims who headed it, but it was a bit of a melee, I couldn't really see. It goes through Latabodiere, who, I don't know how he didn't get anything on it. He had enough time to swing 3 times at it, I think. Kaminski gets his hand to it, doesn't get it anywhere. Hashioka tries his hardest to get in there. He's got no chance. It's literally on the goal line. And Haji Wright taps it in. And I was going to say they win 3-2. They had another golden chance to make it 4-2, which Kaminski beat it out to keep some kind of gloss on the scoreline, really. But yeah, that winning goal was coming and very disappointing when it came.
Disappointing, but it just inevitable, sort of what it felt like. There was no, even with all the changes, there was no halting whatever they were doing. They did anything they wanted came off, and there were no challenges going in. And that one just, speaks wonders really, because I forgot Hashioka was near it, but he was the only one near that. There's 2 of them there swarming around the ball to get it in, and immediately I thought it was offside. And that if that was going to be given, then they would have been screwed twice in a week on a similar decision. But
yeah, I didn't think this. I saw Alfie.
Yeah. Then I tweeted in the heat of the moment, and people pointed out to me, and fair play. Yeah, I corrected that afterwards. I think the only angle I've seen of it suggests it was on, but I don't think it's 100% conclusive because it's not exactly in line, and certainly the lino is a yard in front of Doughty. So there could be something in it, but it's just not going Luton's way in that regard. Just poor defending, and it just felt inevitable. And I don't know how many times it can keep happening that you go ahead and 2-0 should be a secure result. You should at least get a point, but to lose again. I'm still speechless, as you can tell. It's just beyond frustrating.
It is, yep. So, are you right? This keeps happening, so we need to talk about what can possibly happen from here, because it needs to stop happening, right? So, here are the symptoms of it, right? 3-game week. Luton. Even these people that like Nathan Jones and want him to come back, Luton stunk the place out in the 3rd game of a 3-game week under him. This is not a new symptom that's got into our play. We have been terrible in the 3rd game of a 3rd game week for as long as we've been doing this podcast, right? It's just the way Luton play. Now, why Rob wants to play with this controlled manner and keeping hold of the ball and having 60% of possession and everything else is because you do an awful lot less work when you have the football than when you don't have the football. Now we've gone back to the style that we said in the preview we were really enjoying, and it's much more Luton. There has to be a trade-off. Now, if we're going to have the intensity that we played the Watford game with and the Sunderland game with, and the lack of the ball and the amount of running that we're going to do, then we have to appreciate that the third game in a week is going to be a tough game. Whether that middle game is on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, the third game is going to be a tough game. But we can't go through the rest of the season with the third game being like that. We have to do something to make that third game as manageable as possible. Now, when you're 2-0 up, and if we had coaches who were thick as pig shit, then you could understand it, but we don't. We have the most clued up coaches that we've had in my time as a Luton fan, certainly in the most recent past. They have to be appreciative, particularly now when they are given every single number to every set. I mean, you know, they even have their front door numbers. They have every number going to them on every single player, on every single device that they want to look at. We have to work out a formula now whereby we can play that third game in a week to the best of our ability. Now, whether that is that we have to transition this play so that we can do it, I don't personally think that's the case. But he has to manage the team better of a 3-game week, right? I've checked. He hasn't used 5 subs in any of the 3 games this week. Now, if they're giving you 5 substitutes to use, the very least you can do is take them up on their offer and use them, right? We were 2-0 up against Watford, and that game was done the very second the second goal went in. They could still be here now, 8 days later, and they weren't scoring a goal. Why are we only using 4 subs there, of which 1 was made in injury time? So we only really used 3 subs there. You've got a chance there with half an hour to go to take 3 or 4 players off and save them because you know what's coming along later in the week. Sunderland, we only used 4 subs there, one of which was Joe Taylor, who came on again with a couple of 3 minutes to go. So effectively, we only used 3 subs there. And then yesterday, when we're out on our feet, right, I can see that we're out on our feet. And okay, it was mostly the defenders that were out on their feet, but the midfielders were too. Why are we only using 4 subs yesterday? That has to be a big issue. Why do we keep making these subs in ones as well and leaving ourselves with 3 in the last spell? He's not going to use 3 in the last spell. Why don't we, you called it a minute ago, why don't we use half time for one of the subs so that we still have our 3 windows left in the second half and manage it better? Marvellous Nakamura at half-time yesterday could have come on for any one of the 3 midfielders. I'm glad he didn't come on for Krause because I thought Krause had a really, really, really good game. But Jordan Clark is offering absolutely zero away from home in particular. Someone put a comment on on the preview about how Clark's form has been bad since the end of last season. I'm not sure I completely agree with that. I think he's been effective in home games at times this season, but whenever he's behind the ball, he is so easy to attack, it's untrue. He's making the wrong decisions defensively. When you're 2-0 up and you've got a player like that, and you've got a player like Marvellous or Pelly on the bench, that to me seems like an automatic sub, particularly as Clark does an awful lot of running in games as well. He's only going to tire. That felt like a natural substitution to me. So the first thing we need to do, because we've got another 3-game week right on the back of this one. Okay, it's helped that the West Brom game's the Friday night and they got a little bit extra before the Wednesday. But we've still got this Wednesday-Saturday problem right on the horizon again. The very first thing you can do is use these subs an awful lot better.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, everyone's a genius with hindsight. I would have changed a couple of players for the start.
But that bit's not hindsight, is it? Because they've got all their data numbers. They all wear GPS trackers. He knows how much running they've all done over the course of this week. They must know the amount of running, the intensity and everything else. Bearing in mind, we're playing against a Coventry side who played on Tuesday night here and not Wednesday night. And if you watch the Norwich Middlesbrough game on Sunday afternoon, Middlesbrough played on the Wednesday night and they've capsized in the second half. This wasn't a purely Luton thing this weekend. Same with Plymouth as well. Preston at Plymouth. 3 leads have been surrendered this weekend, and as you know, I'm sure it's not a coincidence that the schedule was the way that it was. But when you've got the numbers in front of you, use them.
Yeah, the subs have got to be used a lot better.
Let's save some of the people that do the majority of the running. Let's save them. and help ourselves out a little bit, because between Cardiff and Middlesbrough, so we're going to finish the Cardiff game circa 10 p.m, right? There's no time to recover. And then on Friday afternoon, they're going to go to Middlesbrough because they've got to go to, because it's a 12:30 kickoff, they've got to go fairly early on the Friday. So they're going to have, call it 40 hours between finishing one game and leaving to travel for the next game. There's no recovery time or anything. So help ourselves out a little bit in the 2 games before it and manage them equally better than what we do the third one.
The Clark thing is what I wanted to speak about there. My theory on this now is that you mentioned some people have said he's good at home and not so good away. My theory is that
was me mentioning that.
Okay.
Most people are saying that he hasn't been good all season. Bearing in mind he had that injury, didn't he, in the build up to the Burnley game, which meant he missed that. I don't think he's been as bad in games where Luton attack and don't really get attacked. Primarily the home games. I think Clark's been okay. You know, he obviously, of course, the goal against Watford had an extreme amount of fortune to it, but the goal in the game against Oxford didn't. And, you know, when Luton are attacking, he, at home in particular, he is very much an asset to the attack. But is he as much of an asset to the attack as he is a negative to the other side of it? And that might be where the seesaw is in the wrong direction for him.
someone's stolen my thunder. That's exactly it. When Luton are on top, Jordan Clark's good. You know, best team against Pompey, really, really good. Best team against Watford and Sunderland, decent. Best games for Luton. When Luton are under the cosh, you need to whip them off. You need to get someone else on. You know, obviously, clearly, like Pelly's further down the pecking order, but I think everybody will respond well if you bring him on. I mean, Nakamba should be on anyway. I think you've got to be. I think there's got to be some more. There's got to be braver. I think the goal was masked a lot in the first half, but you can see you're getting overrun, and you mentioned it yourself. You don't know how they didn't score. Well, at that point, you're like, marvellous, go and warm up. I don't care if it's only been 30 minutes. Mate, these are the sorts of things people want to see, to try and be proactive instead of reactive. And that seems to be what it is at the moment. But at very least, for me, Nakamba comes on at half time, should do, and take off Clark. Whether that means a rejig, well, you know, fair enough. But for the Sunderland second goal, it wasn't just him culpable for that. Moses was as well, but there was nothing. There was no aggression there to try and block it or stop it, and it's just too easy. We thought it would be the last 2 games. I think we were quite rightly talking up the performance. And yeah, you can say afterwards now that two of their best performances, one of them they didn't even win, or one of them got beat. That's fair enough. I think that's fair enough. But it's small steps, and we thought, right, well, they've gone away from the international break, come back, rediscovered themselves. But this was just everything that was wrong about the 9 games before that. And it was passive, fragile, lack of confidence, no tackling, no closing down. They were allowed to pump balls forward, maraud forward, pass balls forward without a single intervention until it gets to near the 18-yard line. And then it's like, well, now we better defend. Well, how's about defend a bit further up? It worked a treat against Watford and Sunderland. And yeah, they had different tactics to try and get around that Coventry. But recognise that. And for a team that's shipped this many goals, you can't be defending that close and that back to the wall, because it just hasn't gone at all well. And if you're analysing this last week, and I thought it'd be a really great week and all this stuff, but you can say that they played really well against Sunderland, and they did, and they still shipped 2 goals. 2-0 up, 45 minutes of football to play, conceding 3 goals. It's just unforgivable.
It is, yeah. just to quickly finish off with the Clark thing, we shouldn't expect him to be brilliant defensively. He's a right winger converted to a central midfielder. At no stage has he got defensive instincts in him. So we really need to get out of our brains that he can play the defensive role. Therein is on the manager. Put a defensive person in there for it. But my question, Jimbo, is we hope we're going to be in this position again where tiredness is going to be an issue, right? That's just the Championship schedule. It's how it is. And all of our midweek games this season, or certainly in the not too distant future, happen to be on the Wednesday night. And there's just no recovery time. There's no getting away from that. But you'd like to think that we'll get in front of a Saturday game. But there needs to be better planning as well. And now, I said earlier in the podcast, I didn't think Rob did an awful lot wrong in terms of the substitutions he did use. Absolutely, he did get something wrong in my eyes by not using all 5 subs on a day where it was so blatantly obvious arriving at Coventry that if we weren't already tired, we were going to tire, because they're a bloody good side to chase around a pretty wide and big pitch for 90 minutes. Anyway, to not use the 5 subs was daft. But the 4 subs that he brought on, so obviously he swapped the striker, he swapped Morris, he brought Brown on. That's generally been a substitution since Morris has been back. That sub has happened in all 3 games. It happened again, fair enough. The timing of it, straight after they scored, maybe you could question that. The substitution of Marvellous for Chong felt right. I think we both agree it should have been Clark, not Chong, but Chong had kind of started to run his race as well. So that was okay. And then the last 2 substitutions that he brought on were Woodrow for Elijah and Walsh came on for Krause. Again, given that we're at 2-2 now and they're not even bothering with the midfield anyway, they're whacking it into the channels and seeing what they can get from that. And we're looking to probably play out for a 2-2 at this stage. Bringing Woodrow on, someone who can at least get his foot on the ball, someone who can bring someone else into play, someone who can just give us that 5-second respite that we kept on referencing that Sunderland couldn't get the other night. That also felt like the right sub to me as well. I know everyone's saying now, why did Woodrow come on ahead of Joe Taylor? Joe Taylor can't hold a football up. That's there in essence is why Woodrow came on first. Maybe some of the other times Woodrow came on, that's a different thing, but yesterday it was predominantly to hold the ball up and to offer a bit of a shift defensively when we were in our own half, which you wouldn't get either of out of Taylor. So I'm fine with all 4 of the subs that he did make. Where I'm not fine though, and I heard Rob's interview with 3 Counties after the game. There isn't much of a club interview, but there is an interview with 3 Counties, and he mentioned that they stopped pressing as a team because Coventry were beating our press so easily. So that's fine. He's recognised that Coventry are beating our press. They're going down the channels. Usually it's down the right-hand side to Haji Wright, isn't it? Because presumably because they no doubt he's on a booking, and obviously Tom Holmes joined him on a booking shortly after. And also they were getting no joy out of Victor Moses down the other side anyway, and their left wing back was on a booking after about 5 minutes when he absolutely barged right through him stupidly. So it was all going down the right. But at no stage did we stop that space, right? So he's recognised it. He's recognised that they're going a lot longer than they were. And Sheaf was only a factor in picking up the second balls when we managed to win the aerial duels, which we won quite a few of. But I think when we're 2-0 up, whether we're tired or whether we're not, but particularly when we are a tired side, I think back to this season, when have Luton looked their best defensively? So they've looked their best defensively at Portsmouth, against Oxford after Liam Walsh had been sent off, and probably from 2-0 up against Watford, where he actually changed the shape then, didn't he? He brought Jacob Brown back to play the left wing, kind of went into a back 5 with 4 in front of them, and just had Elijah for a little bit, and then they swapped it around a little bit longer and kind of played not on the counter-attack, but with a counter-attacking threat should the opportunity arise, and that's how the 3rd goal came about against Watford. I didn't see that plan yesterday. I saw a team that kept its same shape even though it had changed its style, i.e. there was no midfield press because it was being made redundant. That was right, but why would you keep the same shape then if the midfielder just getting bypassed. If they're just getting bypassed, why don't you put them into positions where the spaces are to stop the space? How are Luton going to keep sides out this season? In much the same way we did 2 seasons ago. Let them get the ball wide and put a cross in. And you trust Tom Holmes, you trust Mark McGuinness, you trust Reece Burke, you trust Ted and Mengi, you trust whoever it is to get their head on it and head the thing away. But we didn't. We kept on allowing Haji Wright to go down that right-hand side into that channel. And then they either backed him up with, is it Van Ewijk, however the right-back's name's pronounced? I don't know. Or they had Victor Torpin alongside him at this point. So they had a triangle of 3 in that space. Now, Alfie can't tackle because he's on the yellow card. He's going to go. Obviously, Holmes, in his tiredness, tried to grab hold of him and Wright got away from him and he's just pulled his shirt back and that's happened. But why, when you're 2-0 up, and particularly when you're 2-1 up and you can all see what's coming, why not 2 banks of 4, be deep. You can shift them all across one, so you can put Hashi at right back, McGuinness, Holmes, centre back, Doughty left back, and then you can have Brown on the left wing, Victor Moses on the right wing. You've still got your midfield 3, and then you just leave one up top, whether that one's Morris, whether it's Elijah, whether it's Woodrow, whether it's Taylor, whether it's, the King of Burma. At least then you're going to be hard to break down. At least then you've snuffed out where every single attack is coming from because you've got Brown doubling up with Doughty. You're forcing them to put the ball in the box where your strength lies in your defensive output. Our defence isn't tracking runners, is it? We've shown all season we can't do that. Why? That's what we need. We need to manage games better. We need to manage games better in formation. Do you know what? We've just had a fucking masterclass in managing a game 3 days earlier in the most shithousery way possible. Yet at 2-1, Kaminsky's jogging to take a goal kick. Why the fuck are you jogging to take a goal kick when we're under pressure 2-1 up? Why?
I think I'm convinced that they believe that they can just go and score another goal. There was never, Luton were not going to score another goal.
But you don't
for
need
as long
to.
as that game was going on.
You don't need to when you've got 2 away from home, Jimbo. If you go away from home and score 2 goals and you lose the game, something's on you. Now, I'm glad Carlton Morris came out in that BBC interview and said that was on us, not Rob. And Rob really, really, really needs to stop. Whether it's on him or not, he really needs to stop coming out with that line about, I take full responsibility and all this. Because everyone's pissed off with that line anyway, whether it's true or whether it's not true. It wasn't true yesterday. It was on the players. Player lost Sims for the first goal. Clark's abysmal defensive read for the second goal. And then it's the combination of the mishmash for the third goal. None of them's really on Rob. But what is on Rob is when you're 2-0 up in a game of football, why are you pushing for the third? Why? Why don't you just sit deep, be hard to break down, be hard to beat? We've got Victor Moses one side of the pitch. We've got Jacob Brown the other side of the pitch. You've got pace to burn on the counter-attack. Be hard to beat, be hard to break down, offer no space in front of your goal. Get the ball out to one of them 2, let them run at them, get someone else up the pitch and try and score a third on a counter-attack like we did against Watford, and then that's fine. Don't try and score a third in the manner that we scored the first 2 because we were bloody fortunate to score them anyway.
This is what I mean. I think that there's far more confidence than the evidence has suggested that they'll just go and score another goal. And they weren't. They didn't get anywhere near scoring a goal. But that Woodrow chance was a half chance at best.
Yeah.
And other than that, they created nothing whatsoever. It was all one-way traffic. But then it was all one-way traffic in the first half. They just managed to score 2 goals. And so then I think there's a sense of overconfidence that they've scored those, perhaps, that feeds into the second half. But I think it's fed into a lot of the games where just think that Luton are going to go up the other end and score at will. I don't know. I've watched enough of football. I've watched a lot of football to know that they were never getting anything out of that. It was shut up shop and make it hard to be beaten. And they've done it this season.
That's the infurious nature of it. They can do it. They're just not asked to. Listen, Football Manager and real management is not the same thing. We get that. But anyone who plays Football Manager, it gives you the game option, doesn't it? When you lead, to resort to this formation and see the game out. That's exactly what we need to be doing. We must have a formation when the shit's about to hit the fan. We must have it. Otherwise, you're just going to concede every time you're attacked. what is wrong with just, and I understand Rob wants to be entertaining and he wants to be gun-ho and all this, that and everything, but you've done that bit. You've literally, at 2-0 at half-time, you've got that game where it's for you to lose. Don't go and lose it. Go and protect it. Now, if they're good enough to score 3 goals with you sat there denying them of all space and the ball comes over and they win 3 headers, for example, and they all end up in the bottom corner, then you have to hold your hands up and you say, do you know what? Coventry are a damn good side. Fair play to you. You've gone and beaten us. And to an extent, they did beat us because of the way that they penned us in and we couldn't get out, in much the same way had we have won on Wednesday night, we'd have beat Sunderland in exactly the same fashion. So you have to give Coventry an awful lot of credit here for all the down part, or the role in the down part that we've played. Shouldn't be taken away from Coventry that they were bloody good on the day, and it would be unfair not to make that point.
Yeah, no,
but
we highlighted this beforehand.
But this isn't the only
but we said
rodeo, is it?
Don't give them the foothold to improve their season. What happened? Exactly that.
Yeah. There's where my disappointments lie with Rob. The substitution use for the whole week has been a mess, really. Okay, he can't do anything about Tom Holmes being knackered. He hasn't got a defender to bring on unless he brings Joe Johnson on. And were the third goal to go in when Joe Johnson's was on, everyone would say that they've just thrown him under the bus anyway. So he's in a no-win situation there. But I maintain that the use of the substitutions in the first 2 games this week could have been an awful lot better than what they were. The absence of Marvellous, I mean, we've heard that you can't play 90 minutes in a week. That's absolutely fine. He hasn't played 90 minutes per se in the whole week. He's only played 60 in the 3 games combined. What's going on there?
Well, that only will lead to conspiratorial thinking. Because I did it myself. I was like, is he that bad that he can't play even that small part of a week? Is his knee that bad?
Well, if it is, you've got Pelly sat there. Now, is Pelly the answer for a game where you need to chase it and get back into the game? No. But he can sure as hell run from side to side when we're trying to keep a team out. You know, he did it perfectly against Watford. And then if you are going to play on the counter-attack, who would you want to lead with a run through the middle of the pitch? Yeah, that would be Pelly, because if you think back to Millwall, when we also defended well, it should be said, Pelly went on one of those amazing runs into the far corner just to ease the pressure on us when we were really under the cosh at 1-0. We didn't have that Saturday. Okay, a lot of that was because we were tired, but we didn't have that anyway. You look at the midfield 3 that we finished with, Clark, Walsh, Nakamba, well, none of them 3 are going to run down the channel and just buy some time. But I go back to, where's our game management gone? Kaminsky's running, taking goal kicks at 2-1. Why? Sunderland keeper at 2-1 the other night, he couldn't get off his arse for love nor money. Now, I don't like time wasting. I hate it with an absolute passion. But until the rules change, stopping you from time wasting, you're killing yourself if you don't do it when everyone else does it to you. Also, where's the just buying a throw-in and walking up and taking 30 seconds over the throw-in or whatever, like every other side do? No, we don't get the throw-in. We try and keep the fucking ball in play. Put the thing to the back of the stand. Recycle. Get some shape about you. Stop Haji Wright having the whole of that right-hand side to go at. You know?
Yeah, I mean, totally agree. It's just naive, isn't it? It's just...
It has to be that, doesn't it? Because it's not even like, you can't come out and say, well, injuries are depriving me of the options. I've just shown you how you can go to a back 4. You just push Moses up one and stick them all across one. Hashioka right back, Doughty left back, the 2 centre backs, Jacob Brown in front of them, 3 midfielders. And just leave Woodrow, Taylor, whoever it may be up front, 4-5-1. And play on the counter-attack at 2-1. If they happen to score, well, they happen to score. But don't leave the same space open for them to score. All 3 goals came from the same side. Okay, the first one was a corner. But the other 2 came from the same side as well.
It's been nearly an entire year of really not learning from these things.
But exactly that.
You know, there's no point playing the interview from Edwards because it doesn't tell you anything. It just says we're 2-0 up. You can't lose from there. But you have, and you've let 2 goals from Oxford go in, and it just keeps happening. And you look around the pitch at the end, and just despondent look on the faces of the players. And yeah, I agree with you. I think it was right that Morris came out afterwards and said it's on the players as much as anyone else, and that he said the phrase was that Edwards fallen on a grenade for the team. And yeah, I think he needs to stop saying that. Maybe call out some things that aren't going right, but that's not going to be his way. And I understand what he's doing from a man management point of view, is to try and take the heat off the players, but
It's not working.
the players are doing it as well, and otherwise you're just going to get, and it's already happened. To stay off social media, people going at him is putting more pressure on his neck, and it's not going to help any.
This isn't our first rodeo, 3-0 at Bournemouth. Every single goal is exactly the same. Again, we're trying to score a fourth goal at Bournemouth. Why? What the fuck do we need a fourth goal from in a game for? If we need a fourth goal, we need to be looking at our defenders and saying, well, what have we got you here for? Against Oxford. Okay, it's unfortunate that they score right on a stroke of half time, but we waited until it was 2-2 before we made the changes, and then they never looked like scoring when we made the change. Why don't we make the change when we're 2-0 up?
I think
and stop them from scoring.
I think that's the frustration. From the small amount I did clean before I just threw my phone at the ball. That the changes and the decisions are reactive. They're not right. Something's going awry here. We'll make the change now. They were on top. They hadn't scored at that point, but they were on top. Get something to stop that, and that doesn't happen. And even when the goal goes in, Brown is still the man that comes on, rather than thinking this changes things. Now we have to have a rethink and then get Marvellous on. It's just too late, but it was too late anyway, because like I said, I think he should have come in at half time. Maybe he should have started. That's the hindsight talking, but that's what you're left here scratching your head constantly.
Yeah, listen, it's hindsight talking to an extent, isn't it? And we're fine with talking it in hindsight. But the one thing you can do with hindsight is learn.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's there. So next time we go 2-0 up in a game, wherever it is, whatever the situation is, whether it's the third game of a week or the first game of a week, a 2-0 lead has to be managed a hell of a lot better than what Luton manage it. No one's saying that you have to stop at 2-0, but just be different. Just go and get your third on a counter-attack like every other team would. But just make sure that the next goal in the game at 2-0 is not as easy to score as it has been in all of the games that we've been 2-0 up in. I mean, you look at that Bournemouth one. Okay, Solanke's one is a good bit of skill. But from where he picks the ball up to where he scores, can no one really tackle him? Going back to that one, I mean, we're coming up to West Brom. This all started against West Brom, didn't it? When we led them 2-0 down here in Rob's first season, and they came down and somehow got a 3-2 win out of the equation. But you think of the Bournemouth one, Solanke must go past 2 or 3 players before he puts the ball in the back of the net. The Oxford one is an absolute shit show for their first goal, the way that they just pass it around us and no one puts a challenge in. And then yesterday, a bloody set piece. I mean, come on, Town. Where's your physical, personal pride that you are not scoring a piss-easy goal against us when we are 2-0 up? If you're going to score the next goal of the game, and to be fair, the chances are that the team who are 2-0 down are going to score the next goal of the game because they're the ones who are going to be doing 80 to 85% of the attacking. That next goal is not going to be as piece of cake to score as what they are against us.
But that's the thing, isn't it? They're far too easy to score against.
And this is why I'm putting it on the players as well, because at some point the players have got to be thinking, how many more easy fucking goals are we going to concede at 2-0 up? They're easy goals. Okay, the finish from Oxford, from Goodrun, absolute worldie. But the move getting it to him is piss poor from our point of view. And it's the same. Do we switch off when we're 2-0 up? Possibly. Look, there would have been a lot of mental fatigue yesterday. And I know there's people out there that have serious physical jobs and all that. that would say, well, they're paid well, blah, 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 but they're human beings at the end of the day. They have a petrol tank that's so big, and at some point it's going to run out. But if you haven't got no legs to run with, don't run. Just park the bus.
I think we'll have to wait for the next couple of games to see if they can learn from this. I think part of the back to basics approach from the previous 2 games, which we were so full of praise for, now has to come in to that effect. What you're saying there. Back to basics is, it's your game to lose. Make it very hard. And Luton have been, in the last decade, quite good on the counter. You can do that and soak up pressure. And your point about, let them have it out wide, cross balls in, and you can head it away, is fine. But then the first goal doesn't suggest that, when that, it's Adebayo, let's be honest. So mainly he's quite good at this, and he does his job, and he's a striker doing that, and he lets them go. But the timing of it is killer. They arguably should have scored before that, but they've still got half an hour to get 3 goals. It makes it even worse when you say they've scored 3 goals in half an hour.
Well, Bournemouth done 4, So
it's it's naive. There's no game management. There's no changing it to make it more difficult. Stop trying to be this swashbuckling side. You've done the swashbuckling. Put your sword away and just start getting your fists out.
Yeah, using your heads. Don't go running for the ball when you're 2-1 up for a goal kick. Let the ball boy kick it to you, or whatever. Take it on the other side of the goal, like every other fucking goalkeeper does down at Kenilworth Road. They're not going to book you. I mean, this ref might have done, but you still got a yellow card in tow. At least wait until you're booked before you start running after it. Do you genuinely think that if Coventry had gone 3-2 up after 70 minutes rather than 90 minutes, that their goalkeeper would have been running to take a goal kick? Would he, bollocks? Not a prayer. Why the hell is Kaminsky doing that? Why, when he puts the ball out, does he put the ball out? Why didn't he thump the thing to the back of the stand so that we, not just Kaminsky, anyone who does this, why does it not go to the back of the stand so that we can get back in our shape, whatever that shape may be, and be hard to break down? This is what every other team does to us. Sunderland just gave us an absolute masterclass in doing it. They must have been watching it. They're on the same fucking pitch as them. Why can't we bring that into our game when we're 2-0 up and physically shattered? It does not make any sense to me, and people can blame Rob all they like, and I've outlined a few reasons there why he can be culpable, but he can't be culpable for people doing stupid things like running for a goal kick, unless he's genuinely saying, when we're 2-1 up, please go and run for a goal kick. I cannot believe, for love nor money, he's telling his goalkeeper to go and run after a goal kick when he's 2-1 up. And if he is, he needs to stop it very, very quickly. That's on the player. Why are you doing it? Why are you doing it? We've stopped faffing about with that tippy-tappy goal kick. It's going up the pitch. Wait for the ball to come to you. It's only 30 seconds, Jimbo. But these 30 seconds add up.
You see why I'm speechless about it. I
was doing my absolute nuts.
It's
I mean, he can't hear me, Kaminsky, but I was like, will you fucking slow down, man?
It's just Groundhog Day.
As I say,
I'm just getting bloody. It's not just Groundhog Day.
We've gone into double figures for the sequels, haven't we?
It's Groundhog Day, Déjà Vu with a vengeance. It's that bad. It's like, hopefully it's got to be a blip. That's the fact. If it carries on, then I know some people are already saying Luton bang in trouble, and that's obviously that's the league position, which don't make for good reading either.
We're not banging trouble. We've just got to use our bloody heads a little bit more, both figuratively and literally on yesterday's occasion.
You can understand why people are saying it, though.
I can, but it's 12 games in.
Yeah, but how long are we going to say it's 12 games in, it's 13 games in, it's 14 games in?
Yeah, absolutely, I get that. But you look at the league table, you win on Friday night and you're something like 14th. It's not like we're cut adrift and third from bottom. It's not that stage yet. if we are at that stage yet, then we're not in the Wolves Southampton position in the division above. We're not in that position where they need 2 results to get out of trouble. 1 result gets us out of the shit. But we have to learn from our mistakes, and we have to start doing that. Now, we've learned from that shower of rubbish at Sheffield United. We learnt from that very, very quickly. Now we've got to learn. I would be a lot more concerned, Jimbo, a lot more concerned. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I'm not concerned, but I would be a lot more concerned if we couldn't go 2-0 up in a game. It's a good thing that we can go 2-0 up in the game. Only Luton can fight. Can it be a bad thing that we go 2-0 up? Everyone else who goes 2-0 up, hunky-dory. It's a good thing. We've now got to learn quickly how to manage games of football when we're 2-0 up. A lot better than what we do. It should be so simple. Just stop looking for a third goal. If it comes, happy days. You should back yourself, particularly when you're 2-0 up after 45 minutes. You should back yourself not to concede twice in a half of football. Otherwise, what the hell are you there for in the first place?
But the problem is now that who is backing them to hold on to a 2-0 lead, because
it's not about
it's happened
us.
too.
It's not about us though, is it? It's about them themselves.
Same thing. They must be now thinking, well, we can score 2, 3, 4. It doesn't matter. We concede all the time.
If you do think that, you need to go to the boss and say, sorry, I don't think I can see this 2-0 lead out. We need strong characters here. You know, this is a men's game of football. This is tough. This is a tough school. No one's going to feel sorry for Luton when they're 2-0 up if they don't fancy seeing it out. You've got to put your chests out and you've got to say, I am not going to concede a soft goal. If Coventry pinged in 3 worldies from 30 yards yesterday that Kaminsky had no chance with, then you just put your hands up and you say, do you know what? That's too damn good. To give them 3 soft goals, at some point we've just got to say, look, we are not conceding soft goals. We're not going in search of a third goal. And I don't think Rob ever actually did after the first one went in. I think he was trying his hardest to protect some sort of result. But we've got to just shut up shop. We did it against Watford. And I know Watford offered fuck all. I get that. But some of that was down to the fact that we didn't give them any space to do anything with. So why the hell did we let Haji Wright have the same space time and time and time and time again?
Well, the obvious. The Watford game was the first game after a 2-week break, and they could press all they wanted, and they did it perfectly. And then against this game, they haven't got the legs, which I feared, and he told me that he didn't think that was an issue. Well, it now is an issue, and that has to be managed, and it has to be managed after the West Brom game straight away. Well, it has to probably even be managed for that game, because that's the start of the 3-game week, isn't it? We've got a week break now, so they can have no excuses for the West Brom game. But then the 3rd game of that one, you can't do the same thing again. This is the problem, isn't it? There is too much of this, the definition of insanity stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Listen, I'm still behind Rob. I still think he's the man to be our manager. But he has to learn. Everyone has to learn. And his position only becomes untenable for me, not necessarily on results. Look, an individual result can go either way, on a refereeing decision, on an individual mistake, on anything else. His position would only ever become untenable if he doesn't learn from all of these mistakes, right? Now, if at the end of this 3-game week, if we go to Middlesbrough with an unchanged side from the Cardiff game and don't make 5 substitutions, for example, just something as basic as that, and we lose, that's not learning from Saturday. Now, if we've got to endure Saturday, the least we can do is learn from it. That's all we can do now. We can't go back and play the game. I know we've put the clocks back, but unfortunately, I only went back 1 hour, not 24. Can't go and play the game again. But we are going to be 2-0 up in a game of football. I hope. Again. So I want to see, next time we're 2-0 up, a change in approach. Not a change in surrendering or anything like that. Just be hard to beat. You've got players who can play on the counter-attack. You've brought God knows how many midfielders that are supposedly good in possession to just buy 30 seconds and get you up the pitch. Liam Walsh, Shandon Baptiste, we're led to believe he's going to be fine for Friday. Tom Krause, Jordan Clark when things are going well. Use the players that you've got at your disposal in a style that not only limits the opposition, but still gives you an outlet. Because you don't want to be camped in for 45 minutes like Sunderland were, because you're going to concede. Okay, Sunderland got away with it with the linesman. We've done all of that. But at the same time, you can't be as open as that when you're 2-0 up. You don't need to be as open as that when you're 2-0 up.
It seems so obvious saying it here, but when you're watching the games and these things are continually happening and they're not changing. Presumably when he did bring, say, Nakamba on, that was to shore things up, but they were not bothering with where Nakamba was. And so then the shift focus to where it is, and it just doesn't happen.
It needs to happen. That's where we go from here, right?
Well, yeah, that's the change. That's where it's got to be different, because it's now not. You've gone through a whole season where you've throughout the bad results, you've picked out particular things that things aren't clicking or not working, and they're getting chalked off. So
this is the next one to chalk off.
Elijah, for instance, he's scored 2 in 2 now, and that's been chalked off. All the strikers now, apart from Joe Taylor, and I'm still not opening that can of worms up. I'm sorry, but I'm just not. The argument there that he's some sort of magic smoking gun for all of this is just, it's not. I mean, we spoke about it earlier in the season. If you want to go and see Kev's explanation of why he's not the man, you can argue about it all you like, but I'm fucking bored of that. But yeah, so it's not that they can't score goals. That's happened, but it is that they are still conceding a massive amount of goals, and if they keep conceding that many, then you're not going to get out the table at all, and you're going to be in trouble. At the time, the performance against Sunderland, if you take the result out of it, and the performance against Watford, suggested that things had turned, that the corner had been turned, and now I think, like I said at the beginning, I just think the corner hasn't been turned. They just had a look around it, and that's it.
Yeah, I'm not so sure myself. But we have to learn from these 3-game weeks, because the next one's a 3-game week. Straight after the international break, it's Hull, Leeds away, Norwich away. That's going to be even worse, having an away game and then an away game Wednesday night, Saturday. If we don't learn from yesterday, we're just going to be in the same position when we go to Middlesbrough and the same position when we go to Norwich. And they're good sides. Then they'll turn us over. There's half a chance they'll turn us over even if we manage the week well, because they're good sides. If we don't manage the week well, we've got no chance.
But do you believe that Luton can still get in the playoffs?
Yeah. Yeah, because what are we, 10 points away from it? Yeah, absolutely. But we've got to stop shooting ourselves in the foot. And when you go 2-0 up in a game of football, just be hard to beat. Even if you drew 2-2 yesterday, right? Yeah, it would have been disappointing, but at least we'd have got something from the game, right? We'd have got 4 points from the week, which everyone would have took after Sheffield United. Everyone would have took after. I mean, we were talking about a couple of draws just to get us going. We just got to learn, right? We're in a position where we're fucking up too many times. Like you say, we've sorted out the issue that we had with Elijah. Looks $1 million now. That's a massive positive, right? We've sorted out the issue that the other issues that we've had. Now we have to learn quickly how to game manage, and I hate the term. And I even hate the thought of Luton time wasting. But if everyone are doing it to us, we're just killing ourselves by not doing it to them.
Absolutely. That's what I mean.
Who went down with cramp yesterday?
No one. And it strikes me as naive when you're frustrated by it. Maybe they're going. They don't want to stoop down to that level, and they want to. Pure about it.
And I applaud them for that. But you've got to win. You've got to win the game if you don't do that.
You've got to. Those 2 games were great for performance, and I thought, okay, this is the old Luton, get back on track. But considering what's gone before, and I don't want to say what's gone before in the previous season because of a different division, but also that because some of these issues are still carrying over. You've got to still claw your way back into good form. You're not just suddenly in great form. I mean, let's face it, you lost one of those 2 games. So you've got to do the dark arts. you've got to get them in there to try and give yourself an extra, whatever percent it is. It's going to be small amounts, but think how pissed off you were about the Sunderland goalie do it. And we always are. We always are. But so would they. Their crowd were well up for it. They got them, and the wave of emotion and the momentum all followed for them. Break that up as well. And that's something everyone can do. It doesn't matter whether you're in good form or not. It's just being a bit nasty.
Well, clever. It's just clever, isn't it? You know, until the time where the referees and the rules stop you from doing it. If everyone else is going to do it, then you've got to take an attitude of, if you can't beat them, join them. And that's it. You look at every other team that gets in front of us. I mean, Jesus Christ, the QPR goalkeeper couldn't move once they went 2-1 up. There's nothing wrong with him. Sunderland keeper, you're not telling me he ever had cramp on Tuesday night. It went down twice. I did Tom Holmes a disservice. He did go down, and then he got straight back up again. Get the fucking physio on, for Christ's sake. Kill the game. Physio could have sat next to me, had a cigar on. Didn't get used at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's all of it, the entirety of the whole day. It was just frustrating, the whole of it. Even though at half time you're like, wow, 2-0 up. This should just be called the hindsight podcast, because now I'm just feeling like of deluding myself. It's like going, wow, this is 2-0 up when you've played like that. Wow, this is good. Wasn't, was it?
No, because like you say, the message appeared to be, rather than, wow, we're 2-0 up, let's make sure we don't lose this, it was, oh, wow, we're 2-0 up, let's go and get a third. No. Bollocks did a third. Didn't need a third 2 years ago, did we? Every game we won 1-0 away from home 2 years ago. Can do it. It's only McGuinness in that defence that, when it's regular, that ain't here. 2 years ago, they can do it. Get back to doing it. Time's come now to get back to doing it. You get yourself into great positions. It's about time that you finish them off. And if we do start finishing them off, we're going to win loads of games of football. I mean, we've been ahead in nearly every game this season, haven't we? That we've scored in. We've been ahead of. It's only Sheffield Wednesday that we've come from behind to win. Been ahead in all the other games of football. You know, fluffed your lines against QPR, fluffed your lines against Oxford, fluffed your lines against Coventry. You've only played 12 games.
That's fine, but the amount of goals that are being conceded, stupid ones, that is a problem.
It is a problem, but
it's a massive problem.
Make yourself harder to beat. If we can't do it, then that's fine. We're going to have to adopt the Kevin Keegan route of, you score 3, we'll score 4. But they showed at Portsmouth. They showed at Millwall. They showed against Oxford from 2-2. They can do it. They can do it. Because it showed against Watford. They can do it. For Christ's sake, use some nous and do it. Don't worry about a third goal, especially at the end of a week where you've been chasing the football around all week and you ain't got no legs left. Who the fuck was going to score a third goal? Couldn't get up the pitch. It's crazy. Please, Rob, please let that change. When we go 2 up, 2 banks of 4, be tough to break down. Everyone, 24 teams in this league, 23 teams do exactly that. We're the anomaly. Stop it. Get back to what we're good at. Go in front and then just be clever. See the game out and we'll be absolutely fine. Frustrating. You're right, and it's frustrating because it's happened too many times and we're not learning. But from right here, we have to learn from that one. That can never happen again in the style that it happened again. As I say, if we go 2-0 up on Friday night and West Brom put 3 shit pingers in the top corner, fair play. It's not a problem. But make them do it. Don't give them a tap in from the sodding goal line. Quick positive just before we go. I do want to talk about Hashi. Thought he was really good yesterday considering he's out of position.
Yeah, he was. Put his body on the line, got in the way of stuff, was aggressive.
Took a slap to his mush halfway through the first half as well, I think.
Yeah, it wasn't much in that, to be fair, but he did. He went down and rolled around. Do a 2-0
up.
Be more like Hashi.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I thought he was good. When you consider he's playing out of position against 2 physical centre forwards, he's not a physical centre back, as he's a right back. I thought he was all right. That's just about the only positive that we can come up with, other than the fact that we went 2-0 up with the pass of the season. We had the goal of the season last Saturday. We had assist of the season yesterday.
Yeah, it was a wonderful pass. I thought he was quite good in an attacking sense. None of them were good in a defensive sense.
Nope. They weren't. Structure has got to improve, Tam. Got to improve. Right, that's it for this episode of the podcast. Nobody picked Coventry 3, Luton Town 2. So no points there. No points for myself or Jimbo. My 1-0 was blown out of the water much earlier than I thought it was going to be. Not that I was disappointed at the time, but...
I had the dubious difference of opinion of thinking at the very same time that Ellis Sims scored, oh God, it's going to happen again. But also, but if it doesn't, I've got you here.
Yeah, I don't think that thought lasted for very long, did it? That's
No.
for sure. That's it for this episode of the podcast. Thanks for everyone for sending in your comments and things. I hope that we discussed that Jordan Clark comment enough. If you do have anything that you want us to discuss, stick them in the comments and we will do our best to do them in the next review show. We try and get the preview out or preview recorded very, very early so that we can get it all chopped up and everything ready to go out with enough time for you to give us score predictions when the schedule allows. Thanks also to the Barber Club and the Lower Level in Luton for hosting our studio. Really appreciate your support, guys. To Sean Grant and the Wolfgang for our intro music, and to Ed Smith, the creative, for all the designs that you see on set. Until next time, which will be a preview of the home game against West Brom on Friday evening from Jimbo and myself. Please, please, please don't let that happen again, Tam.
I need to fucking lie down.
For me, it's the people and the spirit of the people as well.
I love this town. I love this town. I love this town. You know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got this massive soul.
We're Luton people, and that's what we care about.